take a few deep breaths and breathe out. And allow your mind to just settle on what's happening right now. The bodily sensations, sitting on the chair, the cushion, the temperature in the room, the sound of my voice. And let all the thoughts of the past, of the future, just let those go for the moment and just focus on what's happening right now, what your awareness is aware of right now. Now bring to mind the reason you decided to show up today. And based on that reason, generate a positive intention to use your time well. So with that in mind, we'll recite the four immeasurables. So whenever we do anything, we try to remember that we're just one of a community. Microphone. I'm being told to get the microphone. It's not here. So we want to think about, that if we're looking for peace of mind or just reducing our suffering or whatever it is, that we're part of a group, whether we're a group in here, whether we're a group in our house, at our work, but on the planet, we're part of a group. And so we want to, and we're interdependent on each other. So we want to always try to do things with that addition of not only may it, benefit my mind, but may it ripple out to benefit others. And so that's the idea behind the four immeasurables. Is there four immeasurable minds? Thank you. All right. So we have the mind of love, the mind of compassion, the mind of joy, and the mind of equanimity that just recognizes that all of us are the same in wanting happiness and not wanting suffering. So may all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. And may all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. And for those of us who have an affinity for the Buddhist path, who feel like they can take refuge, I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, May I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Okay. So how we're doing today? I'm terribly amused today. I've just, on the way here, I get so nervous. It's hilarious, and I'm really, and I'm working myself up. I can tell, okay, you're making it worse. You're making it worse. It is just so me. This is my habit, it's not, doesn't mean anything like I'm supposed to be scared of you people, it's just weird. But but it's funny how when you familiarize yourself with the triggers for our uneasiness, it becomes kind of funny because we're very repetitive, it's not like there has to be something new. No, this is sort of my natural state. So anytime public speaking is like a drag. Do we all agree with that? So, and then this topic is extremely important to me because it changed my life. So I want to communicate it well, and accurately or whatever. But mostly it's just, habit. I just have the habit of being nervous. So anyway, and I have a habit of doing that. Microphone. Shouldn't be allowed. Okay. Oh my goodness. So anyway, I'm amused. So we've been talking about how to look at our unease and learn how to take care of that unease using wisdom instead of freaking out or, getting angry at somebody or harming ourselves or whatever, how to recognize that our sense of uneasiness is generally underneath our negative actions of body, speech, and mind. And so the sooner that we can tell that we're feeling uneasy, I feel it in my body. That's why I keep pointing to my tummy, because I can feel that there's just the slightest tension. And even before that, I usually quit moving my legs or my feet. I notice that, like, if I'm sitting in a chair, I'll realize, you haven't moved your leg for ages. And that holding still for me is a clue you're afraid. There's something that, you're uneasy about. So we want to start recognizing those kinds of clues. We want to get to know ourselves so well that we can truly respond to ourselves with respect, kindness, compassion. And then that will help us treat those around us the same way, so that we're not always acting from our uneasiness, and we're also not out of control due to what external things are happening, so that, that we're not triggered by what somebody else says or does, or just the world in general, or, stubbing your toe or whatever it is. We want to be able to recognize how it's our mind that is directing us to our actions. And that can include thoughts. Like if you have an angry thought or a nervous thought, in my case, if you don't address it, what happens next? This is the pop quiz portion of our. You stay uneasy. In fact, you usually, follow it with another anxious thought or nervous thought, or like you feel, you might tell yourself like, oh, I'm going to lose it. I need to, blah, blah. You make it worse. Yeah.
I think the exaggeration starts at that.
Yes, the exaggeration. In fact, the exaggeration actually started before that point. That's why you feel uneasy. But this is when you can really look and see how you're distorting what is happening. You know, it's like me getting nervous coming here to teach. I have nothing to fear here. I mean, I may look like an idiot. But who cares? I mean, that's not going to kill me. I have looked like an idiot many times in my life, and I'm still here. So, it's not that, so we have to really look, okay, is this state of mind dangerous? Is it really a problem? Or am I making it into a problem by worrying about it, by rehearsing it almost in our minds? So, the key to this is being able to first recognize, just notice, I'm getting a little upset here, or I'm, getting a little infatuated here, when you start daydreaming about, chocolate cake or whatever, that you just start kind of increasing your attachment to the objects of desire or your aversion to the things you don't like, in some way. And we want to be able to, instead of doing just that, we want to bring wisdom to it. We want to be able to really look with our mind of intelligence, our mind of love and compassion. Those are types of wisdom, to look at our thoughts and talk back, talk ourselves down if we're anxious, talk ourselves down if we're getting angry, talk ourselves up if we're feeling discouraged or, not good enough. We need to recognize that if we're exaggerating towards the negative, we need to pull back and get realistic. If we're exaggerating towards the positive, we need to pull back and get realistic. It's the same. It's just recognizing that we've gone off track and that now we're under the power, influence of a distorted state of mind. So attachment's just the word we use for a distorted state of mind that's exaggerating things that we like. It actually applies to everything because we're very attached to being separated from things that we don't like. We call that aversion, but it's another form of attachment. In other words, our desire to be happy and to not suffer, we generalize pretty much in every moment. We want every moment to be pleasant, not unpleasant. And of course, how many moments do we have control over during the day? Not many, apparently. So this habit of trying to make this moment better is kind of, what's the word for it? Resistance is futile. I don't know. There's just, it's a hopeless endeavor or fruitless fatigue, as they'll say in some of the text. You can try and try and try and try, but you're just going to wear yourself out, and it's probably not going to affect anything except that all those moments that you're trying to change your external circumstances, you're suffering. Why? Why would that be suffering? Yeah.
Because even if you change it, you're going to become unhappy again.
Right.
Changing the AC to 73, and you become too cold.
Exactly. It's like, it doesn't last long, does it? If we are dependent on our sensory experiences for our happiness or suffering, good luck, because it's just pretty immediate. That as soon as we have, in Buddhism, what we say is our sense of happiness in the body is our relief that the suffering has ended. So if you're uncomfortable and you switch around so you're a little more comfortable, that sense of ease is coming from the absence of the suffering you were feeling a second ago. And then, like Hope's saying, then it's like, okay, that didn't last long, so the squirming doesn't work. So if we constantly are squirming to get happiness, it's a never ending, we become a perpetual motion machine. So how do we do that? Does anybody notice their thoughts this week? Anybody notice their unease?
Walk away from the situation.
I'm sorry.
Walk away from.
Well, first, let's just notice. How you doing with that? With trying to just recognize, I'm not real happy right now. Sometimes we don't notice it at the time, but at the end of the day, we'll kind of go, God, I really behaved badly today in that conversation. What was going on there? So we can look back and kind of go, what was bothering me? And you kind of, go through the things. You're not trying to rehearse your anger or upsetness or whatever. You're really trying to bring wisdom to looking at the situation. So you can go, well, what was it said? And what was said? And then you go, oh yeah, I remember him saying that. And then you can kind of go, why would that get me upset? Oh, because I think he's judging my performance at work, whatever. I mean, we can find out. And then we have to use even more wisdom. Okay, so say you discover that someone is judging your performance and you feel badly. What is that? What can we do with that piece of information?
You can decide if their opinion.
Yes, you can consider the source. That matters. Oh, yep.
And check if it is true. If it is true, you take action. If it is not true, let them say whatever they want to say.
Yeah. So we can use that information to go, is that true? Yeah. And see if you're running away with distress over the criticism. So there are many different possibilities. And what we want to start noticing is, what do we do? Do we immediately get defensive and say, that's not true? Whether we say it out loud or not, doesn't matter. Just sort of like, I did not, kind of thing, to see and see how that feels. Defensiveness doesn't actually feel very good. It feels kind of like I have to be defended, and that's kind of scary. So we want to look at that. If we think, oh, there's some truth to that, then what can we do? We can rejoice that we found out, and we can improve it. This is, like good news. If we don't know what's going wrong, like in a relationship or in in our work performance or whatever, we're clueless to how to improve. So we want to check up to see, so being upset by the criticism doesn't have to happen. If we do that, we probably have a habit of that, where we just see it as, perhaps our parents were really critical or whatever. We can blame our parents just because they're not here. But, it's not. It's really a habit of ours that we take in other people's words and think, and it doesn't matter, believe it or not, how they're said to us. There's some people who are very unskillful about giving criticism. So we will have bosses, coworkers, friends who tell us something and they're not very skillful at it. That doesn't have to affect how we respond. It may mean that we add on some more of our wisdom and let that person know, especially if it's a friend, that it would help me out, if when you have good advice for me, that you, say it in a way that I don't feel this way, without blaming them, because it's not their fault, it's your response. It's just more like we have to get along, right? We want harmony. we can also work so that it doesn't affect us that way, so that it doesn't matter. We don't take it on as some sort of X. 3 strikes, you're out. So when we notice that unease, we want to kind of see, is there something I can identify in this condition? Because external things are a condition. Me coming to teach isn't a condition for me having anxiety, driving here. So it's not that externals, that we aren't interrelated to what's going on. It's just that they don't have to control us, and we'll never find happiness out there because it doesn't exist out there. It exists in here. Or in here. Or wherever your consciousness is. Which now even scientists say it seems to be all over the body. And of course, in Buddhism, we don't consider the mind and the brain the same thing, or the nervous system, or whatever they keep identifying. We consider it a non-physical thing that we all have a continuum of. So anyway, all right. So Jack, I remembered that you said something a couple of weeks ago about when you're not having thoughts, what's there in the mind, when you're just looking at the container, so to speak, and I just didn't track your question. So, but it's awareness. Our thoughts are conceptual awareness, they're concepts we have about things, whatever. Okay, but the mind that has these thoughts is defined as that which is clear and knowing. It is this awareness, this faculty of awareness that we have. And some of our awareness takes the form of conceptions, most of it, but also there's an awful lot going on all day long, all night long, that's just the mind being aware. And that part or aspect of the mind is naturally peaceful. It's our thoughts that stir it all up. So that's why they often use the idea of waves on the surface of an ocean, that we're stirring things up the way we think. But the more we get accustomed to just being still with our minds or being quiet with our minds, we can discover this peaceful, non-judgmental, crazy mind that we have. It just takes a while. So does that help, Jack? Does that, so like our direct perceptions of things, how your eyes are an organ that help you have a direct perception of visual form. So we also have, we might have an experience of that visual form that is not thought. It's just awareness. Whereas things that we can't directly perceive with our senses, like, smells and sounds and visual forms and taste and touch, we think about. And that's where our conceptual mind gets most of its work. And we go very quickly from the moment of mind where we directly perceive it to a whole story we've created conceptually. So I see the chocolate cake and I think I'm saving that for later. And then I think about the chocolate cake. I hope it'd be so good right now. I'd feel so much better if I was just eating it right now. I mean, I'm making this up, although there are times when I do have that about chocolate cake, but I mean, mostly that's not true. But we want to see how this is operating in from all day long. Yes.
Forgive me.
Thank you.
I have come across
Mhm.
We're going down the wrong path. We're still acting, so trying to stop the car. That's rolling. And I have to even in my mind. So.
Yeah, so this is the thing. Once that state of mind has arisen, like unease, you're already in a state that's under control of that mind. That unease is controlling you. And that's why you want to also introduce wisdom to the picture, you know. Sometimes the wisdom, you know, for me, when my anxiety used to be out of control, I would have to go, don't do anything. And I just have to tell my mind, don't make it worse. And actually, I had to tell my mind like much more gentle things, like, don't worry. I'm not going to do anything that makes this worse, you know, and that it's going to pass because nothing lasts forever, you know, blah, blah, blah. But there's a tension that's difficult to tolerate.
It's like feral. It's very feral.
Yeah.
It's almost like a disassociation.
Yeah.
My mind is separate.
And so you have to be able to be extremely patient, because we can't, depending on where we are in a continuum for any kind of state of mind, it's not going to change like that just because we have some wisdom about it. You know, it's not like that. We need a lot of loving care and support to accepting, oh, this has arisen. Like if when I get nervous, if I sat there and just went, oh, you're really going to screw things up, or, you know, blah, blah, you'll probably get in a wreck on the way to the center, or da, 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 you know, all those kind of wild thoughts that you can have, I am making my anxiety worse. If I can just say, okay, that's where I am. And just sort of like, I learned this from Thich Nhat Hanh. He used to describe how when you have a crying baby, you don't have a conversation, you pick it up and hold it. That's what we need to do with ourselves, is learn how to hold ourselves such that that moment passes, that 10 minutes pass. You know, if we have an appropriate person that we can call and say, okay, you know, I'm losing it. That can be very helpful if they know how to share the space with you. You know, so it's really helpful to find support people like that. You know, we may need therapy for it. I've had years of therapy, you know, so I mean, it just depends on, you know, so becoming your own therapist is this idea that you've got a little bit of mental health in some parts of your life, you know, and so you're working with that. But, you know, but we don't need to panic, like you're here, right? So all those experiences you've had haven't killed you yet. You know, I'm hoping you haven't murdered anybody yet, you know, so it's okay. You know, we all have, well, I should say we all have, but at some point in our lifespan, we've all had these kinds of experiences. You know, people have had, you know, rage and uncontrollable rage. You know, they do something in that moment, you know, but that's not, it's understandable, you know, because we're reacting, not being. Yeah.
Tom has a question.
Yeah.
Not sure what to do. Should not get carried away with whatever mind states arise.
Okay, what was the first part?
Not sure what to do. Should not get carried away with whatever mind states arises.
Yeah, that's part of the practice, is trying to.
I'm sorry, Venerable. Thank you for pointing that out. Jack had a question about what was the general question that we were discussing. And so I was trying to figure it out based on what you were saying. But thank you.
Anybody help her out with that?
He was trying to get what her question was, because he couldn't hear.
Whose question?
Jack was asking what her
No,
question.
don't worry about it. It's in the past. Let's just.
It's in the past. He's let it go. We're talking. Okay, yeah. So, you know, feel free to turn off your mic and say, Tendron, would you mind repeating the question? We didn't hear it.
First, when you are on Zoom, because I've been there outside, you cannot hear the questions here. So then you answer, sometimes you don't know what.
Yeah, and vice versa. I don't hear
This is
their
what I have to
questions.
expect.
So, yeah, so, you know, we're doing the best we can, folks, and
Yeah.
it's not very good. What can I tell you? So, okay, so the question really is, what do you do when you're already out of control? Your mind, whatever mental, you know, state of mind has come up, and there's just nothing you can do. You know, you just have to let it play out. So what we're trying to learn how to do is in the playing it out, letting it play out, is have nothing happen. You know, that you just wait. So you don't do anything that makes it worse, that you don't harm yourself or others. I have many questions being like this. So should I stop talking and let you talk?
Can we wait for the end? I don't know. It's the question. I don't know. It's just this.
So it's this learning to be able to go, okay. The great news is that you recognize it. You know, you recognize there are points at which you just, okay, nothing I can do. And so that's when, you know, you have to you might even need a list of things to help you not act out from this place so that you can learn to tolerate that feeling without panicking. Does that make sense? You know, I mean, this is the thing. It's like when my anxiety was out of control, I finally went to the doctor to get a heart monitor to make sure I was having a heart attack because I couldn't tell. And it made me even more nervous that my heart was going down, you know. And so when I had the test, you know, and he said, no, there's nothing wrong with your heart. I thought, oh, it's just in my mind. Wow, what a surprise, you know. This is before I was a Buddhist, but it's just like, you know, this, you know, it's like doing what you need to take care of yourself. That's why having someone you could call and just say, okay, this is what's happening. And being able to sit with the discomfort of it without judging yourself. You know, learning how to be, you know, oh, well, here I am, you know, and understand that we all have disturbed minds, you know, and so there's nothing to, it's not a statement about who we are. So it's so important to, you get the help you need, but you also don't hurt yourself in your mind. You know, you keep reminding yourself, this is okay. It's okay that I'm like this. You know, I don't like it. I'm uncomfortable, but that's okay. You know, I've tolerated discomfort before. There's a possibility it'll get better. There's a possibility it will not. But whatever, I can tolerate this moment, and then this moment, and then this moment. It's a process. Yeah, Debbie.
Yeah, I was watching my mind really get out of control, and I looked online to see like a test result, and I have a doctor's appointment Monday, and just I saw the story that I was forming, like my bone density is not good, and so having an argument with him about either getting medicine or dental thing I want to do. That I'm supposed to do. And but I just saw like I was
Stacking the problems.
yeah, like argument that this doctor I haven't even met yet. Just wanting to just
Yeah.
argue it out and no, like I don't even know what to say. I mean,
Right. But this is what fear does, doesn't it? We just run with it. And we make up all these stories, which are not true. Don't forget that. When they're starting, just kind of go, you're making this up. You know, this is totally not happened yet. You're making this up. You know, so maybe, it isn't true. It won't be true. But no matter what, this is a story I'm making up. It isn't what's happening. What's happening right now is I don't want to feel the fear. And so I'm going to create a story and try to get power over it when there's nothing you can do in that moment. We spend a lot of time building a fortress around us to protect ourselves and it's absolutely not effective when we don't have the pieces to build. You need to get more information, you need all this stuff. Plus, our bodies fail us. And we have to deal with that. It doesn't cooperate. It's like, and it's one of those things that all through our lives, actually, it's happening. And then somehow it seems like it accelerates when we're older, but probably not. It's probably just that, we know that at the end of one of these sentences is going to be, and you're going to die from this. Serious panic starts. So we want to get ahead of that. We want to start recognizing that the stories we're telling ourselves are making it worse. Yes, somebody had something.
Yeah. So my question was, if you said just think that nothing happened, so we assume nothing happened, or we just accept that something happened, but everything is fine and will be fine.
It's more that while it's happening, you accept that this is what's going on. Okay, so this is what's going on. And it feels very, very uncomfortable, but probably won't kill me, especially if I don't try to not be that. It's like you pull off the side of the road, you stop. Perhaps sometimes you even have to stop listening to what someone's telling you because that's making it worse.
So what if it
So
does
it's
kill you?
just getting comfortable, just kind of going, oh, here I am. I'm familiar with this reaction. I've had it more than once, okay. It's learning to be okay in the misery of the moment. Because we have those in life.
Body supports us, believe it or not. So if you sit for 1 minute without continuing to engage in the story, research shows those chemicals the body release will actually go down. But the problem is we start retelling the story and we keep
Because it's very uncomfortable. And so we don't have to beat ourselves up for starting the story again. We just need to keep trying to chill, just trying to, okay, I'm going to stop the story because it's not helping. And I have to have those conversations. I'm going to stop the story because it's not helping. I'm going to stop the story because it's not helping. And you just, so, because I get those doctor's appointments too, and you just have to, okay. Go for it, Graciela.
I was thinking if it would be possible to maybe if we're making it worse and we're thinking about we're replaying the story that's making it worse, could we go and think about something pleasant? Could we imagine a moment of kindness or
something? When something's happening in that moment, you have to try it out. Right. We want to develop some tools. So if thinking about a pleasant experience or a safe place, or, getting a hug from someone you trust, that kind of thing. If that works for you, then by all means, imagine it. Because you're already in that state of mind that's out of control, that's distorting things. You don't need to keep that up because we do have to process things that we're afraid of, things that we worry about, things that we're infatuated with, things that, we need to also examine our choices in our lives and our decisions and and go with it. So it's not just imagine a happy place and that fixes everything when you get skilled at it. It's we want to apply some sort of healing event in the moment. Like for me, it was things like, you're not having a heart attack. You found that out, quit that story. You're not having a heart attack. You haven't killed anybody in this state of mind yet. That's good. Let's keep that up, it sounds so ridiculous to talk about one's mind, but this is what we're like. And we need to be comfortable with that. Yes.
Something that I'm noticing that happens to me is that I get caught up in trying to get away from the situation and trying to be self-conscious. That turns into a game that plays against myself, because I keep asking myself, okay, why this situation is presenting for myself? What is the lesson? What is it that I get to see for myself? And what is my responsibility in whatever is playing? So it turns into a game like, okay, what is it that I'm doing? What is it that I need to learn?
And what you're really doing is just trying to not have the feeling. Is that you said you run away? You try to.
I guess I'm trying to bring that wisdom that
right.
ended up myself feeling in guilt or sometimes ashamed, because like, okay, what is it? Like I'm part of this.
Okay. Yeah.
Like I'm playing.
Yeah. And that's a really good thing to notice is when we think it's our fault, and we should feel bad about it. Yes, there's something called regret. Like when I yell at the cashier, I have regret. I don't have to feel like a bad person. There's a big difference. But it doesn't mean that I don't need to say, I'm sorry, I just lost it, sometimes I'm not a very nice person, whatever. But we also need to watch that in our own thoughts, because the way in Buddhism we describe it is that everything that we experience, we created the cause for it. Okay, but that doesn't mean now or even yesterday. It means maybe, countless lifetimes ago. So having this idea, now sometimes we have direct, we can direct it, if I yell at somebody, and then I feel it's direct cause and effect. So, but it's this recognizing that just because something bad is happening to you doesn't mean that you did something in that moment to create this situation. It does mean that you're experiencing something that you created the cause for, according to Buddhism, in the past sometime. So then, we can learn from it in the sense that, one of the things is that, especially if we're taking it personally, whatever's happening, to think, have I ever treated someone this way? Have I ever, oh, it doesn't feel good to be treated this way. Maybe I should learn. We do want some of that. But when we're in the moment, if we're feeling yucky, we need to allow that yuckiness to settle a little bit. So I'm not clear on exactly how you mean that you turn it into sort of like a game where you end up being the loser in your own mind, obviously. So, but it's, we only, when we start thinking that we can make ourselves perfect and always have the appropriate reaction to anything, we're setting ourselves up to feeling terrible all the time. Like one of the difficulties is when you start looking at yourself as you go, not so nice. And I'm not so skillful, and I'm not as smart as I think I am. And it just goes on and on and on and on, right? It's, and you want to watch that because, it's not helpful. And we're all like that. If it's true, as the Buddha said, is that we have ourselves as the center of the universe, and we think everything revolves around that, and everything has something to do with that. And so every conversation we have has something to do with us directly, as if the other person isn't doing exactly the same thing. You know, they're the center of their universe. Have you ever thought that somebody snubbed you and then you find out later they didn't even see you? I didn't know you were there. You know, we interpret things according to our perspective. And it's only one of many. And others, just like we can't tell what someone else is thinking, they can't tell what you're thinking. Just like we sometimes don't see people, we don't, you know, we're whatever reason, our mind's on something, we don't recognize somebody, you know, they don't recognize us. It's, I get away with, you know, I'm not invisible dressed like this. But most people, if I'm in some other place, they'll think I'm Venerable Rabina. Are you the one that was on that, like in Australia? Because she, or her Buddhism, her prison thing was shown on their public television network show there. And so then everybody dressed like this, who was short, bald, wore glasses, was Venerable Rabina, you know, and you want to go, I wish I was, but I'm not. So we want to recognize our limitations. It's very important to recognize our limitations, you know, and to accept that we're not there yet. Like there's certain things in my life, in my mind, that I haven't addressed at all because it's like, sorry, it's on my to-do list, but it's way down the to-do list, you know? So, you know, that doesn't mean I'm not trying. It doesn't mean I'm not working. You know, it just means that it's a long list. So, and it's okay. Because the cool thing about this is the better we are at accepting who we are and recognizing, oh, I kind of would like to change that. And that's not making me happier. You know, I always end up regretting something because of that habit of mine, da, 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 da. The more we start working with that, the easier it becomes. It gets easier. It's just the process from recognizing it to the time it gets easier. If you're not good at rejoicing about what you do every day in the right direction, you will forget it. We have a tendency to focus on the negative instead of focusing on, oh, you know? So, you know, if you have a tendency towards feeling guilty about actions or thinking you should be able to control everything you do, then you really want to make sure at the end of the day, you also look at all the things you were in the right direction. You know, all the skillful things, even if it's, you know, smiling, or the fact that you got up and got dressed, went to work. A lot of people don't do that, you know, so it's just a matter of balance in the sense of, you know, we are not our states of mind. We have states of mind. We have habits of mind. Some of our habits are terribly unskillful, and we would suffer less if we reduce them. But some of our states of, you know, our habits of mind are very skillful. You know? I mean, most of us know someone that's just seems like compassion is practically the, you know, oozes from their pores, you know, they just always seem to have a compassionate response to people. You know, they don't think something negative. Do you people know people like that? Maybe not. I'm not one of them. Well, yeah, you could say that. But I mean, you know, the point is that my younger brother was born generous. I mean, he was always generous. As a 2-year-old, he was generous, you know. He wasn't a perfect brother, but he really had the habit of generosity. Buddhism just says he practiced it a lot. He brought it with him, you know? So our habits, especially the ones that are really forceful, we've had them for a long time. So it's going to take a while to get around them, to even just bring our awareness to it and then learn to be able to be comfortable with that. So most of us aren't very comfortable with ourselves. And so we really want to develop this sort of sense of, oh yeah, that's who I am. And this, you know, This is not, in fact, this helps self-confidence. If we can see ourselves with a more realistic lens, then our confidence is not dependent on arrogance. You know, we don't have to fake it. We know we're good enough in some situations. We also don't know what I'm doing in this situation, you know, and being okay with that. We learn what we can. And to do that, we need to have a thoughtful life where we do look at things. And in the beginning, we need to actually like stop and look for a few minutes. How was this day going? It's good to do that at lunch if you happen to have a lunch break, you know, you're just kind of, okay, and reset for the afternoon. And then when you get home, reset again. You know, but you do it by, you know, that hug, that self hug, you know, that kind of like, okay. We're back. So, what time is it? Okay. Okay, any questions? We discouraged you enough. Oh my.
Okay, distracting ourselves from the problem when we are feeling that through the learning of, you know, how they say about law of attraction, think positive, you think good, things happen. You attract the goodness, the positivity. Does that help, or is just a psychological thing to play with our mind?
I don't know if it helps. You know, it's according to Buddhism, you know, we have positive things happen if we created the cause for it, which means if we've been generous, if we've been kind, if we've been patient, if we have wisdom, if we, you know, all the different things that we aim for, have love and compassion for those who are suffering, then things will ripen well for us, you know, but they can't ripen if our mind's in a negative place. So in that sense, it's true that, you know, if we're always thinking, nothing goes right for me, blah, 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 or why do I have to deal with these people, or whatever your form of negative thought is, you know, that is a condition for negative stuff. Because why? Because you will notice the negative stuff. You know, has anybody ever noticed that when you're infatuated, you know, bad things don't seem to bother you as much? Like, oh, big deal. You know, I have the love of my life. This is not a big deal. I mean, you know, we're just so ridiculous. I can't help it. So, you know, it's true that if we focus on the positive, we will notice less negative. It's not so true that if we make it all up in our minds, that will happen. You know, we want to base it in reality. So if you don't have the habit of seeing what's positive going on, you need to look. You need to start developing the habit of just not noticing that all the people you don't like showed up. You know, you need to notice the people you like that showed up. You need to notice, you know, the activities that happen that you enjoyed, the conversations that you enjoyed. Don't just look at what went wrong today. Look at all the stuff that went okay today, normal today, you know. Oh, I didn't get in a car wreck on my way here, you know, because I can tell you when you get in a car wreck on the way here, it's terrible, you know. So when you don't, you know, one of my favorite things is to have the joy of no toothache. because I have terrible teeth and I've had lots of toothaches in my life. And just recognizing, oh, I don't have a toothache today. Oh, I went to the dentist last couple of weeks ago and had the fastest appointment I've ever had. I had a tiny filling. It took 10 minutes. It's like it never happens to me. So, you know, we need to start noticing it isn't just having these events happen to us. It's the fact that we made it through another day. We still breathe. We still have pretty good resources around us. We still have, you know, I mean, we live in a pretty good place, you know, it's just all sorts of stuff. And if we don't notice that at all, you know, we're missing out. You know? And it's hard to practice any spiritual path when you're cranky all the time. Because the world is, you know, our life is not easy. It's not like it's a piece of cake. It's not a piece of cake. It's hard. So we just, you know, we want to recognize that we can handle it. You know, the fact that it's imperfect. And we all know that because we're all still here. You know, it's really that simple in terms of, you know, if you think you can't handle things, you are handling. The fact that you're here proves it. No. Does it mean you don't make mistakes? No. Drat. Yes, please.
Going back to the topic of emotional control. Do you have any recommendations for people that can be highly sensitive, in the sense that people that it's not that difficult to get in touch with your emotions, they kind of just like, they go to you. But then also that are empathetic in the sense that you can also feel the emotions and the energy from the outside very easily. So the result is that emotions become like a very lively thing inside of you, either external or internal. And you know, you have to become like a constant manager, and it can be sometimes a little overwhelming.
I think that, you know, you really want to look at what are you doing with those emotions? You know, if you're one of these people who are very in tune to what other people are feeling, what are you doing with that? Are you taking responsibility in some way for that, which would add to that heightened charge to it? You know, are you, you know, basically we'd recommend just, you know, trying to generate thoughts of love and compassion, recognizing people suffer. It sucks. It's just a terrible thing. And the Buddhism, it teaches us that there is a way out of this mess. We're not doomed for all time to experience the suffering of this kind of existence, but to, you know, but to get there, we need to know that there's the truth of suffering and people suffer. So being aware can make it, you can use that as that foundation for compassion and universal compassion, and go there, because compassion's not exhausting. You know, compassion, you know, feeling like you have to fix it is exhausting. But there's a difference, because most of the time we can't help at all, much less fix it. You know, being present with someone who's struggling is a kind action. And it's pretty much all we can usually give, because we can't fix things. We can witness, we can just be there in the same room, we can send loving thoughts, kind thoughts, compassionate thoughts, but it isn't about, you know, so you need to check what's wearing me out. Is it the actual sense of it? Because, you know, pretty much the more we get in tune to ourselves, we start to realize that everybody's a mess and everybody's suffering to a certain degree. Everybody's life is going on and it's hard. And so the more that we can cut people slack and be able to go, okay, I don't have to yell at this cashier, you know, because, you know, it's just, we demand a lot out of each other. We may not realize that, but we want to really step back and see, am I actually demanding? Am I, you know, in my mind, am I demanding that my friends act a certain way, receive me in a certain way, my coworkers receive me in a certain way? And is that expectation serving you well? You know? So it's just a matter of, we need to, if we take on the world, and we're like, we could fix the world, well, that's not true. Thinking that we even know how is kind of, on the wrong track. So it's more of just being able to, it's one of those things that can help us appreciate when we feel supported, kind of like, oh, my life's pretty good right now, when those moments for others are not, and it's not there for them at that moment, that I really feel rejoicing that we have those moments. Because we don't have to feel bad about things going well for us in any given moment. We don't have to feel bad that we're not thrown by something that's happening and someone else is. We can just rejoice that for whatever reason we've got some understanding, and yay. And I hope that this person discovers that for themselves too, as opposed to trying to tell them how to be. Because you may be wrong about how to be for them. Is the self-awareness and change kind of has to come from within as well. We need help, we need guidance, we need teachings, we need, we need support. But there's a limit to how much, the limit's pretty much zero, how much we can change others. But we can't, yeah.
But is it okay just to tell the person or your friend what, like, the teachings and studies have
Only
been
if they
doing to
ask.
you? Huh?
Only if they ask. Otherwise, you're just being one of those born again Buddhist.
But I mean, yeah, no, that's not, yeah. No, but I mean, not even mentioning Buddhism or
It
whatever.
doesn't matter.
Like.
I have
looking for
found
this
the way.
spiritual-
Let me share that with you. It's annoying.
Yeah.
It really is annoying. As if like you're past everybody's path.
It's almost like vegetarianism.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And yeah. But it's also people who are not vegetarians who have this thing about vegetarians. Like, oh, vegetarians are so self-righteous. We all have we have a master's degree in self-righteousness, and we don't want to use our path to fuel that. So it's really, so no, I would say no. The answer to your question is no. I don't think it's a good idea to share unless someone asks directly. I noticed that you seem to be handling this or that better. What are you doing? Then maybe it's someone raise their hand.
Isn't offering that kind of post when it's not wanted more or less another backdoor way of feeling good about your, like,
Well, it could be.
attempting to feel good about yourself?
I mean, it could be. I mean, but it's, like, I don't want to say it's bad to want to help others because it's not. It's just that sometimes we even distract ourselves from our own work because we're too busy telling others how to do theirs, so we want to watch that. I mean, that's part of the anxiety I have about teaching. It's like, oh, this is a little ridiculous. Look at my mind, it's, we just have to, it's not always inappropriate, but I would say most of the time it is. Most of the time it's unwanted, trying to fix it kind of thing. Yes.
Yeah, for friends and family, yeah, we have to be receptive, but then kids, they don't know what's right or wrong.
You have a different
Yeah.
responsibility for your children. I mean, with children, you have a responsibility to raise them and you're trying to teach them things, but we also know that when you help a child, when they don't want your help, how that goes. They also want to learn. They want to feel self-mastery. I can do this. you know, so yes, children, you know, we have a different thing. Couples have to, but the truth is, it's most people, when they share a difficulty, just want to be heard, and comforted. They don't want someone else to come in and fix it. I mean, sometimes we all wish someone would come in and fix it, but it's, doesn't happen that way. I didn't repeat anybody's question. How y'all doing at home? Are you following the conversation? Okay. I used to do that better. I've gotten out of the habit. So
We could hear most of the questions, just
Oh,
every
okay.
once in a while. Sometimes
so
somebody.
people who speak loud are heard. Okay. It's an encouragement. So
Let's speak loud then.
speak loud. Yes, I don't have this issue, which is why I think it's funny when I have to be mic'd. So, okay. All right. So how do we reflect on this?
I'm still reflecting about what you said.
Good.
Like, to me, I don't know, it's like, because, okay, so here we go about vegetarians, like trying to convince some, no, but it's not that the point. It's like, because, okay, in my case particularly, I feel so happy what I've been discovering and practicing and experimenting, and I feel I know how much I've been changing for better. My goal, each one has their own goal, but I feel like, to share this, not in a way to try to convince.
Oh, yeah.
them.
Well, then what are you trying to do?
Well, that, to me, it's been working well.
Yeah. So what are you trying to do?
To tell them that maybe
It would work for them
there
too.
are other ways. No, maybe there are other ways they could.
Yeah,
do
I'm
that.
sorry.
No,
Well, you may be right. You may have this pure motivation.
yeah, it is.
Oh,
Good motivation.
yeah, well, I'm sure it's a good motivation. I agree with you. It probably is a good motivation, but it doesn't work. And it can turn people off away from the Dharma forever. We really want to watch that.
The way you, because it would be
Take
just
some
sharing.
years of study and become a teacher. Teach people who come to you and say, I want to know about this method. Because otherwise, you're pushing your work onto someone else to say that it's their work too. And it's just not a good plan.
Even though it has a good intention, but it's not.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Because underneath that, there's a big I.
Right.
I have found the way.
I'm happy because I.
Yeah.
studied.
And it's an awful lot about I. You might do better in those moments to listen. Instead of following your desire to say, oh, well, it's a good time to practice listening. I mean, most of us who have been at that phase of new Buddhist, will have annoyed a lot of people in their lives, because we just start saying, oh, well, my father would ask me one question a year or, on Buddhism. And I would never be able to finish the whole answer. It would just sort of like, okay, that's enough. So.
So speaking of the diet, the other day, this person was non-vegetarian and he asked me to share the meal with him. I said, I'm sorry, I'm vegetarian, but I do appreciate you that you're enjoying the meal that I'm not. I don't know, all of a sudden what happens to him, he just left it and he's like, okay, I'm gonna go with it. I mean, how does that happen? When we try to convince somebody, they retaliate, and when we say, oh, we do appreciate you, which we are not doing, and they just want to get along with it.
Right. So
It was so easy.
yeah, I mean, it's just like, so it just depends, doesn't it? We can't predict how an interchange will go with people. and so all that talk we have before the fact, we're like, oh, they're not, this is what we do. And it's crazy. We are making the situation crazy, but sometimes, yeah, we just have to say, I appreciate, blah, blah, blah. I went to Christmas dinner this year, couldn't eat anything. There wasn't a single vegetarian dish. Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
And I just, and the hostess for the first time, because this has happened before, said, oh my goodness, I forget you don't eat seafood either, because in New Orleans, they don't consider that. But they do have a face, let's face it. So but if I'm not worried, then they won't worry. So, are you kidding me? I've eaten plenty. It's Christmas. I've eaten plenty of food all week. If I don't eat at this meal, I'm gonna live. So did you have some?
Yeah, just observation. I think that when I go to my friend's house, I think that it's always a good time to start fasting. You get there, you don't have something that you want to eat, you just drink some water, you're not gonna die.
Yeah.
Proof of that.
So if true compassion is inexhaustible, if we find ourselves, when we think we're being compassionate, but we find ourselves getting tired, if our bodies are taken care of, so take up physical stuff, then there's something for us to check in, right?
Yeah, we're not being about, now it's about us.
Right.
We've shifted from, I want you to be happy, or I don't want you to suffer, to, I'd like to stop suffering now, so can you shut up?
Right. So if in my day and I'm doing compassion, I said, I'm tired, I want to check in and go, wait, are you trying to fix someone? Are you trying to, where did the I come in? Because otherwise.
That's always looking for where the I has come in.
Exhausted.
Oh, I'm tired of saying the same thing to this particular client for the past 17 years. Look at all the Buddhist teachers. I'm just amazed, Lama Zopa Rinpoche comes in and starts talking about the same subject and you're going, yeah, and I still don't get it. We're talking about our minds, and we hold tight. I'm sorry, it's my point of view. That our hold on the I is really incredible. So working on trying to, okay, let's look at that I. Let's take I out of the picture. What would this look like? It takes a lot of practice. So one of the ways to look at wisdom is to really so when you're not involved in something, when it's not, your disturbing emotions haven't arisen, you haven't, you're just thinking about it, is just literally sit there and replay it in your mind and see if your reaction to the event was helpful or not helpful. So that you can start looking at their consequences to how we react, right? So we want to look at first what unfolded, like you're watching a story about someone else. When you're not caught up in that, oh, but this is, blah, blah, blah. And then we're just making up another story in our minds. But we want to kind of just at a distance, kind of look, okay. So, and then you look at, okay, how could this have unfolded differently? If whatever, you look at how the possibilities of other ways to respond. Like when we were talking in the beginning, like if someone, you receive some criticism and then perhaps you took it on and you felt bad about yourself, felt guilty and da, 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 you didn't say anything, you didn't do anything to someone else, but except you harmed yourself, But so you try to look at, okay, what were the words that were actually said? What was, what was the unease about? And is it true that just because you didn't do something well, according to someone else, that's reflects on who you are? Is it true that means you're a bad, whatever, employee, friend, coworker, partner. You know, we need to start taking apart our myths that are in our head. Because we can always, have you ever criticized someone else? Did you mean by that they were a terrible person? You know, and if you did, what does that say? You know, it really says something else, doesn't it? And it's another, you know, big box of things to look at. We can also, if there's a repetitive thing that happens, like, oh, we always end up having this conversation at work. I always have this conversation with my coworker. I always have this conversation with my boss. I always have this conversation with my partner. Play it out in your head and try to imagine doing something differently and how it might play out differently. Because we bring into our conversations our perspective, right? Our perception, and we sometimes become the condition for it to repeat itself. We don't allow something different to happen. You know, they say something, we react, you know, we say something, they react. You know, we don't allow any more room. We don't ask any questions that might shed some light or might ease the tension. So we want to, you know, play it out in our minds, practice it in our minds, practice being able to not be reactive, practice not taking what is said personally, practice whatever it is. I don't know what your buttons are, you know, and imagine responding differently. And then before you go into that conversation, replay it again, you know, and see if it's possible for it to unfold differently. And it's, we have to kind of practice not looking for, oh, you see, I knew he'd say that, you know, where we're arming up, you know, we're just kind of, but, you know, and we put things in our pocket, don't we? Yep. We keep score. And that doesn't help. I'm really watching the clock now. Okay. So in the spirit of, we want to end on time. I mean, you must have another life, you know. I can talk about the Dharma all day. So needless to say, need to stop. Okay. So everybody just take a, I almost did it again. It's too short. I'm going to blame the microphone. So take a moment to remember what your motivation was in the beginning. You know, what you know, if you were able to come up with an intention, you know, ask yourself, how'd that go? Really pat yourself on the back if you feel like, oh, yeah, I've done what I set out to do, and rejoice in that. Rejoice in the fact that you've spent some time today in a really meaningful way, because it really does matter how we take care of our minds, because how we take care of our minds means we're taking care of our actions of speech and body. And so that's really important. So we can, yay, feel really good about it. And then we want to make the aspiration that our efforts will ripple out to benefit others, that it won't just ripen as some positive thing for ourselves, but that it will ripen as positive things for those around you. And a way to picture this is just really simple. If you make the decision to never harm anyone, you know, everybody around you is safe. And that's a wonderful gift. So it's just, so working on our mind matters. So we're going to dedicate these to benefiting everyone everywhere. So these are verses from Shantideva's book, Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life. So really try to imagine that you're giving away all the fruits of your positive actions, positive habits, positive speech, smiles, all the different ways in which we benefit others. May all beings everywhere plagued by sufferings of body and mind obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid of a little with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are warm with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever the diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then, may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. And then we want to have, dedicate our positive actions to also to perhaps, the reason in Buddhism, we say that our teachers, if they manifest illness or whatever, it's due to that we don't have enough merit. That's the idea behind it, is that our teachers can live long if the students have enough merit for them to be in our lives, So that's a very complicated Buddhist idea. So I just thought I'd throw that out there so you can be thoroughly confused at the end, just anyway. But that's the whole point of these prayers, is just, we want to bless our minds. And it's the whole point of praying in Buddhism is all about, please, may I change my mind. May I change my mind. I want to change it in this direction. I want it to go here. So this is gratitude for our teachers. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Chenrezig, Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. And for Lama Zopa Rinpoche, you who uphold the subduer's moral way, who serve as the bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Manjana's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplished magnificent prayers honoring the three jewels, savior of myself and others, your disciples, please, please live long. Any announcements?
Yeah, meditation 101 has been canceled. However, we do have 2 online programs, how to meditate with Discovering Buddhism, start February Monday nights. And then also Elaine Jackson's doing Cultivating Mindfulness. We'll put that on our website too.
That's through the
Thursday
Shanti
night.
Deva Center. Yeah.
And next Saturday, we're doing purification practice, Vajrasattva here at 11.
So if you want to quit feeling guilty and just let go of your regrets, come do purification. So,
next Sunday is the community gathering. After here, we'll go to the park. So hope all you on Zoom will join us for that. Bring a dish. What else? We continue here on Sundays, meditation and venerable tenor.
all right.
And thank you all for your financial support. We really
Yes, we
need
can-
donations.
Yes,
always.
money is what pays the bills. So, we love your love and support. If you can spare a few dollars our way, that'd be helpful. So thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Hi, thank you.
Thank you, Venerable Tendron. Thank you so much. Thank you all.
Thank you once
Thank
again.
you.
Thank you, Venerable.